Hey guys, we're back. This time we're taking a look at the Thunderhappy Pharmaceuticals faction for GKR heavy hitters. I love the blue. It really stands out on the board and it's very distinctive. So you know it's Thunderhappy coming your way when you see that blue. It's a nice rounded faction. They seem to lean heavily towards ballistic type weapons. They have a couple missile options. There's only one energy option in the deck, as well as your repair unit using energy, but how often are you actually going to shoot with your repair unit? And overall, it's just a pretty nice, balanced faction. They have a couple interesting weapons out there, and we're going to get right in and take a look. So the first thing we're going to start off with are the Sentry Guns, and you may not have Sentry Guns if you didn't buy the Wastelands expansion. They were added with that. They let you put them on a building instead of a tag, and it shoots at anything that gets close. The stats are pretty much the same for all of them except for the speed. So with Thunderhappy here, we have a 996, which is the fastest firing sentry gun. I think it's the fastest firing thing in the game right now. I can't think of anything higher. So that's nice. You're always going to be shooting first pretty much with those when they come into play. Next thing we have is our repair unit, Old Faithful. And he's the second slowest repair unit. I think only Diamondback is slower than he is. So keep that in mind. You're going to be repairing towards the end when it comes to those. On to the combat unit. We have Hell on Wheels. And it's a really cool model, which I have backwards, by the way. It always looks like it should go the other way, but it's got a rocket launcher on the roof. And Hell on Wheels here is the second slowest combat unit, just behind King, or just ahead of King Wolf. So your combat unit's going to be on the slow end as well. Just got to keep that in mind. Onto our Recon. This time we have Scoot and Shoot with an 846, which sounds high, but when it comes to Recon units, it's actually, again, the second slowest Recon unit, just ahead of Diamondback. All of our support units are the second slowest ones in the game of their type, except for the sentry turrets, which are the fastest. So kind of a trade-off there. It also combines with some of our weapon options. You'll see where it makes the difference as far as that goes. So for our primary weapon choices, you can see we got 2 missiles, 2 ballistic here. And first one we have is Surgical Strike. It's a 446 missile, not too bad. 3 energy, 2 to 5 range, 4 damage. And it causes +1 damage for each of your support units that can get a line of sight to the target. So when you get somebody to spot for you, which is nice, it's missiles, so you can fire indirectly too. You can also get that extra damage, which makes that a pretty powerful weapon. It has an ability to go up to 7 damage for an indirect fire weapon, which is just pretty insane. Got only that minimum 1 range you can't fire in, which is nice. A lot of missiles have the 3+, so having a 2 range also is nice. Overall, it's a pretty nice weapon, mid-firing speed, nice damage. I'm normally not a big fan of missiles, but I do like indirect fire, especially when it can boost it up. So that's a pretty good choice. Next up, we have Thunderstrike missiles. These are super slow at a 96. 3 energy, there's that range 3 to 6, so you don't have that 1 and 2 you can't fire at. And 6 damage, which is nice. It also gives you +1 damage if the target is at range 5 to 6. So the farther away you shoot, the better it is. Again, another 7 damaging missile. Just got to watch out for that minimum range on there. This one I actually debate between the speed between the Surgical Strike and the Thunderstrike missiles. This one's probably better because it's easier to get that 7 depending on your range, and you're doing more damage every shot, where this one has the closer range ability but requires you to have those spotters in order to get the extra damage, so you're doing less damage normally. Next we have Electric Punch, which oddly they don't have a melee stat, so it's considered ballistic, probably because it's just physical damage. Mid-range speed's not too bad. 2 energy is nice on a primary. 2 to 4 range. Kind of funny that your punch doesn't have a range 1, but I'm guessing it's a balance issue. And 5 damage is nice. And then the ability is basically on a successful hit. You cause the target to take a card from their hand, put it back on top of their deck. So basically they lose an ability until next turn. They're going to draw that card again. Kind of slows them down a little bit. It's an interesting weapon, not going to be my primary choice based on the other options available though. And last we have the chain gun here. It's a slow speed for a ballistic weapon. 2 energy is nice. 1 to 3 range. 6 damage is great for 2 energy. And if it deals 3 or more damage, you can put this card on the bottom of your faction deck, which basically cycles it through so it comes back up faster. Instead of having to put it in the discard pile, wait till you go through your entire deck, then reshuffle to get it back into your draw deck. This one just goes directly to the bottom of your draw deck. It's really nice because you can use a couple of these in a row, and they end up at the bottom stacked together, so the next time they come up, you know, they're going to be right there again. One of the better of the primary options, I think. If I had to choose, I'm not sure what order I would put these in. I'm thinking Thunderstrike missiles are my primary choice, then maybe the chain gun, then it's really a toss-up between the electrical punch and the surgical strike. I like the potential damage on the surgical strike is nice, but setting it up is going to be more difficult. An electrical punch just bothers me that it's a melee type weapon and doesn't have a range one. But it's still a decent weapon. But yeah, the chain gun and the Thunderstrike missiles are the ones I would lean towards. So for our secondary weapons, we have again a little bit of a variety. We got 3 ballistics, 1 missile, 1 energy. Start off with the Super Sancho. Pretty nice speed on there. 2 energy, 2 to 4 range, 3 damage. And if you deal 2+ damage, it can steal a random sponsor card from your target. That's a pretty awesome ability on there. Getting 2+ damage on a weapon that only does 3 damage. First you gotta hit, then you gotta make sure they don't save. If they save more than 1, the ability doesn't trigger, but it's still very nice odds on there. Next we have the paint gun. It's a mediocre speed on there, 1 energy, which is nice. Range 1 to 3, 2 damage. And if the attack deals 2 damage to a heavy hitter, you can tag a building adjacent to it. You don't get a sponsor card for doing it. Cool ability. The only downside is a 2 damage weapon that has to inflict 2 damage. But you have to have a lot of setup here. They have to be a heavy hitter adjacent to a building. You have to do the 2 damage. They can't save any of the damage. But you do get the free tag out of it, which is nice. Just requires a bit of setup to accomplish. Still a decent weapon though. Next we have the pill popper, which is kind of funny. They show it as kind of like a grenade launcher mortar type thing, but it's listed as ballistic. You'd think it'd be missile from the graphic. 1 energy, 3 to 4 range, 3 damage is nice. The range is really the killer on this one. On a miss, you can choose a unit adjacent to your intended target, and they take 1 damage. They still get their normal armor save. So that's kind of a neat aspect to it, is you can fire at somebody, and if you happen to miss, you still can hit something else. But total 3 damage, 1 damage for the special ability. It's the range is setting this up to fire is going to be difficult at times. Not one of my choices as far as first string secondary weapons go. Next we have point defense missiles. Rather slow as most missiles are. 1 energy, spine, 2 to 3 range. That 1 damage though is kind of a turn off at first. So you read the ability here where you can allocate 3 missile attacks to up 1 to 3 opposing units that are within range. It's still 1 damage each, but basically you can fire at multiple targets. You're basically shooting 3 at a time. Yeah, it's 3 separate attacks, so you're going to have to roll 3 different attack rolls, so that's something you need to keep in mind. Not the worst weapon out there, but it's alright. Next we have Lightning Strike, which is our energy weapon, the only energy weapon available to Thunderhappy. Nice speed on there. 1 energy, short range, which is alright, 1 to 2, 3 damage. And if the attack does 2+ damage to a heavy hitter, the target regains 1 fewer energy during the reset round next turn. That can be a killer on somebody. Granted, you're still able to do 2 damage out of the 3, so they can't save more than 1. But to lower somebody's, every turn you generate 5 power that you can use to spend on your weapons, your movement and things. And giving them only the option to get 4 in the following round kind of sucks. So that's a pretty nice weapon. I do like it. And it's the only energy option in Thunderhappy's arsenal as well. So out of these weapons, I think I like the Super Sancho. I like the ability to steal things. I think I like the Lightning Strike. Those are probably my main two. As far as the other ones go, Point Defense I'm just not thrilled with. The Paint Gun's nice, but it needs a lot of setup. I think we'll go with those, but Super Sancho and Lightning Strike are going to be my main choices, I think, as far as building goes. And the rest of them sort of in that order. Point Defense missiles just aren't doing it for me, so. So we get on to our orbital weapons. We have the Orbital Strikes and the Orbital Shock. The Orbital Shock was a promo card, so you may not have that. The Orbital Strikes, though, we have the second fastest Orbital Strike in the game, which is nice to change from all of our support units being so slow. And these are cool weapons. 2 energy for 4 damage. They do not require a line of sight. They hit anywhere on the board. The downside is that when you fire these, they are put in your damage pile, not your discard. So you're basically hurting yourself by 1 every time you fire them. So they're one-use weapons. You can repair and get these back. But just keep that in mind when building. The Orbital Shocks is a slightly different version. This one is a creepingly slow 46, which puts us at the very last as far as these go. And I hate the all foil cards. But 3 energy for 5 damage is nice. Same thing as the other one, doesn't require a line of sight, and it gets destroyed into your damage pile after use instead of the discard pile. But these are nice to have. You just got to plan around them so that you have ways to get them back. Hang on to them or save them. Use them when your repair unit's nearby. You have the chance to get it right back. Things like that. Because you do hurt yourself when you're using these, and it basically lowers your overall hit points. Still nice to have. They are powerful weapons. I've seen people do really well with them because you can set up some really sick things. But I've also seen people do entire builds without them too. Next, of course, we have our deploy cards. Same things are available to all of the heavy hitters. These make deploying your units cost 2 instead of 4, which is nice. And you can still deploy a unit without these, just cost you more energy. When you're only getting 5 a turn, it's kind of hurtful, but if you don't have anything else to do and you don't have one of these, can't hurt to deploy without. But having these in your deck increases your chances of drawing them, increases your chance of deploying a support unit for less energy. Then we have our 2 maneuver card options. Every heavy hitter has these same 2 options. They're almost always worth taking. Quick rotation just lets you change your facing so you can counter something. Basically helps you get rid of people who are about to get a flank shot on you. You can play the spin around. Now they're no longer flanking. They might not get this special effect of their weapon. In the very least, they don't get the flanking bonus. Jump jets are nice, especially with a missile-heavy build or something that has minimum ranges, because you can move yourself back to make sure you're in the correct range to fire. It also lets you pop out of somewhere where they might not have a line of sight on you. You can use this to move out, get a line of sight, fire something. So interesting, both options. I think I'm almost always taking both depending on the heavy hitter I'm using. So far, I really haven't seen a reason not to take them unless you're short on cards. Next we have our beginning of our reaction cards. We have our fake shots, which are basically allow you to re-roll a attack roll should you miss. They do cost an energy to use, keep that in mind, but well worth it if you're lining up a good shot with your primary and all of a sudden you roll a terrible, terrible roll. It also lets you get rid of a critical if you critical fail if you re-roll that original roll doesn't count. It's the only way to really get rid of a critical fumble, so keep that in mind too. Next we have our flank defense. These are hit or miss. I can see reasons for taking them. I can see reasons for not taking them. Basically gives you a bonus if an opponent is shooting at you from your rear flank. And certain weapons have cool abilities for that, so you shouldn't be allowing people to get around into your flank to start with. If you can pilot good enough, you can position good enough, and it's not really an issue for you, then you can skip these and save yourself an extra card in your deck for something else. If you find yourself getting outmaneuvered or you're facing someone who's exceptionally fast or has ways to get around behind you, then you might be more inclined to take these for the extra bonus you get just to protect yourself. And the rest of our reaction cards are all defense versus specific weapons. You have 2 ballistic defense, 2 missile defense, and 2 energy defense. And these you're going to be picking based on what you think your opponent's going to be bringing. If you're fighting against King Wolf, you're probably going to want the energy damage because you know they've got that dire laser and other nasty energy weapons. If you're fighting against Hammer Strike, you're more inclined to take missile defenses because you know they have a lot of missile options, and so on. Versus Thunderhappy here, you're probably less inclined to take the energy defense because they only got 1 energy weapon, and the 1 support unit there has energy weapon too, but you're probably not going to be getting shot at by energy weapons, so having energy defense cards in your deck might be a waste. So it's really a pick and choose. It's random on what you're going to take because you don't know what your opponent's going to take. You can guess based on their faction, and that's pretty much the way it works. But if you bring a missile defense card and they don't have any missiles, they're basically dead cards. You can use them as discards when you get damaged, so you know you're not losing anything useful, but that's about it. So it's really hit or miss on those. You learn from experience what mechs do what, and what ones are best to take versus what opponents. And as for pilots go, I went through them in the last couple of videos. I'm not going to go through them in every video because the pilots are always the same for option-wise. You've got ones in there that'll help you reroll your armor saves. There's one that'll help you conserve energy through movement and things like that. Depending on your faction of choice, your playstyle, your weapons, it's going to vary which one's going to be the best beneficial to you. So pilots are really a personal preference thing. They play to your play style, and there are some that are better than others, but as far as they go, it's really up to you and how you want to play. As I said, re-rolling your armor saves on ones are good. The extra sponsor cards are nice. And then you got your deploying with 1 less energy, paying less energy for moving, and so on. Again, it really plays to the strengths of the player, so you have to pick somebody who balances with your play style, and that's really going to make a difference there. All of them are useful in their own ways, depending on how you're playing, what the map looks like, who you're playing against, what weapons you've taken, and so on. So there really is no best choice for pilots. Anyway, that's a look at the Thunderhappy Pharmaceuticals faction for GKR Heavy Hitters. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.